When we were starting to use Artful Thinking routines here at the National Gallery, we began to use them in our outreach programs to local audiences, specifically in our multiple visit programs. So the program Art Around the Corner is one where we see students about 6 times in a year, and at that time we talked with you about which routines should we incorporate into our curriculum. You recommended the See, Think, Wonder routine. When a teacher, a museum educator, or a classroom teacher has a limited amount of time, why is that routine particularly impactful?
The 3 things that it asks students to do, see, think, and wonder, are things they already know how to do, at least at an entry level. You know, they may not be the most expert reasoners, but they know what it means to say, you know, what do you think about that? Or they know how to answer these questions. So they're very accessible. And I also think that they cover 3 areas of thinking that are tremendously important, not just for looking at art, but for understanding in any discipline. The first is see, you know, what do you notice? You know, it's a step where if you just linger a little while, every student can answer the question, what do you see? But there's a lot to notice, and so I just think that a step that gives the space for students to develop their capacity for careful observation is important. Then the step, think, what do you think is going on, or what do you think about this, is a reasoning step. It's about saying, you've got these pieces of data, these observations that you've made, how can they inform what you think is going on? So that's asking students to engage in some reasoning. And as we know, reasoning is tremendously important in all aspects of school and life. It ends with asking, what do you wonder? What are your questions? Because I think that it's so important in the process of reasoning, not necessarily to end at the absolute final interpretation, but rather end a process of inquiry with a question that keeps pushing you forward. So the idea that thinking should not be about arriving at the end, but about sketching a path of inquiry so the routine ends by saying, well, what do you wonder? What questions do you still have? So that students understand that learning is not about sort of always finding the right answer, but rather about being on a path toward inquiring more and more and more.